Hi, besties. You're currently watching the Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show.
is that time. It is that time. Let me get on screen. Hey. Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I am your host, the Metal, and Happy New Year. Even though we already said that during our New Year special, I haven't been on since then. Mostly, yesterday was just very, very dour. I let everybody in the Discord know that there wasn't going to be a show, but I didn't really post it much else. My father went to the hospital. He's actually still in the hospital right now. He's, as far as the doctor says, doing fine, but I didn't really feel up to doing anything yesterday. And then today, I just wasn't even in the house most of the day, so I wasn't even sure if I was going to come on, but I was able to brush up on some things right before the show started, so I'm here. We are doing some stuff. Do I know in depth what we were talking about? No. But I do have some stuff pulled up that I can read more about as we're talking about it. So please, if you're watching now or in the future, doesn't matter when, just grab that link up above or in the share button or whatever and share it out to some random person on the internet. I don't even care if they hate you. Hey, maybe you can make them hate you more. Hate's a good amount of attention. But with that, we'll get started. Yeah, hey, Fizz. Yeah, something with my dad. My dad took a couple falls very, very recently, and I think that caught up with him, especially with his drinking habits. So just New Year's Day, he was rushed to the hospital, and they found out he had a minor stroke based from a hemorrhage. He had a hemorrhage in his brain. He had to have surgery. They say he's looking fine, but he's going to be asleep for maybe the next 24 to 48 hours after that. And we think he'll be home, but he probably won't ever operate to the same level as he did before. Though he was already declining in some ways anyway. My dad's the type of guy who was a guitar player, hobbyist his entire life, and arthritis had been getting to him to the point that he can't even strum the guitar anymore. He gave it away. That's how bad it was. He didn't even want to have to look at his guitar if he could not play it. Now, I don't know how easy it will be for him to get around. At the very least, he's probably going to need a walker. He might be wheelchairing himself around as best as possible. But again, with the arthritis, he might need somebody else to be wheelchairing him most of the time. We don't know what condition he will be in until after he fully recovers from the surgery. Thankfully, he's a veteran. And also with his age, he has a really good combination of Veteran Affairs benefits and Medicaid. So he's not paying a dime for any of this stuff. But my brother's going to be looking into trying to get him full disability benefits. He's been working on that for a while anyway, but this is definitely going to speed that up. And going to try to move him back down to Texas from Illinois, because it's not a very good place for somebody in his condition to be, especially since he has no network out there. He's got nobody to help, no support other than my brother who's up there with him. And his stepbrother that he sees once in a blue moon, but he's really far away. He wants to get him back down to where my other brother is and a bunch of other families down in Texas. It would be a much better place for him. But anyway, that's the front that's going on with my dad and why I did not stream yesterday, even though it was originally scheduled. I did make sure to come and cancel in time so people weren't sitting around waiting for a stream that never happened. And while it was dour, I was probably the hopeful one out of everyone. Because after having all the medical information and knowing a bunch of random stuff, I'm like, oh, no, he'll probably mostly be fine. Even had a minor seizure, I think, this morning, but that's to be expected after that type of surgery. It'd actually be kind of scarier if he didn't. Believe it or not, because you expect it within that time frame, and if not, you're like, well, some extra things might be wrong. So, yeah, I think he'll be fine. But my brother's up there with him, the youngest. He's, worrying his head off, because that's just, how it is. I think I also just have a more uplifting view of things. My dad's the type of guy who is like, listen, if I'm ever other, do not resuscitate, okay? Don't make me suffer here any longer. I want out now. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to let you off that easy. Maybe I'll force you to come back anyway. That's the relationship me and my dad have, so. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm less worried about this little incident and more worried about his long-term mental health, just because of all the people he's lost recently. Him being the youngest himself of his family. I don't know how well he's taking it. He was going easier on the booze for a while, then he bounced back because he just kept losing everyone. So it's like, how much longer do I expect him to live anyway? He's probably going to kill himself doing something soon. I don't want him to, but that's just like the very realistic outlet on it, or outlook. Hey, Mike, thanks for dropping in. Anyhow, less talking about my dad's health and more into things that I was planning to talk about today. Thing number one. So, man, that made me think of the Cat in the Hat. Not that thing number one. Anyway, CD Projekt Red's co-founder that has left the company for a long time, Mikhail Kaczynski, has purchased Good Old Gaming back from CD Projekt Red. He was one of the co-founders of the company, the Polish company, way back in the 90s, when they created GOG in around 2008-ish. They had a mission statement that they wanted to make games live forever. That's why they've always been DRM free. It's one of the things that I really like about CD Projekt Red's platform. But with changes in the company, GOG really hasn't been the way I'd want it to be. They're still very DRM free, but they're doing all this extra stuff to the platform to make it less functional. I've never really liked GOG Galaxy. Oh, Mike. We date things the proper way. It says 2/1/25 because it's the 2nd of January, 2025. Day, month, year. That's how I've always labeled them. You can go back and look at the other ones. The show on the 30th of December had the 31st. Well, the 31st. It wasn't the 31st. That is how we've always labeled things here. I know it's a little confusing because people who don't write their dates that way might think it is February 1st. But if you look at our thing, it is consistent to where you would know that is the second day of the first month. Anyhow, yeah, I haven't really been a big fan of the GOG Galaxy as a platform. It's been optional. You don't have to do that. If like you go into the website, you can still just download the things you buy directly as like an executable from your account. I do like that portion. But it seems their priorities have just been in all the wrong place, trying to compete against Steam as an overall, like, integrated storefront. And the problem is, I just don't think you're going to beat Steam as an integrated storefront. I think you need to play more into your strength, which the big strength of GOG is being DRM-free, going back and making old games playable that you may not have been able to find anywhere. And that seems to be what Kaczynski is going to be focusing on, as what I think he's the sole owner of GOG now, having bought it back from the company. And I think that's great. He still obviously is going to have room on the platform for CD Projekt Red stuff. He's even said himself that there will totally be a space for Cyberpunk 2 and The Witcher 4 to be on the storefront. But the storefront has been focusing so much on big budget stuff, so much on the integration of everything. Oh, it is 2026. Thank you. That was a typo. That part, I do thank you for. I can fix that later, though. Or maybe I can go into the studio now to fix that. Hopefully, that won't brick my stream. It might. It might brick my stream, so if we disappear, hey, you were warned. Now that is an honest error because, listen, the 5 and the 6 are right next to each other, okay? I have to switch accounts. But yeah, I do not like the prioritizing of all these integrated services for God Galaxy. I think it's distracted from its goal. It's one of the reasons why I haven't been using it. Even for older games, like a lot of my older games, I just own on Steam and use their DOS box for it. But the problem is if, you know, any reason whatsoever, maybe Steam stops being private, or maybe they just stop liking me and they want to ban me, I lose all of my games. Well, at least with GOG, anything I download is on my computer permanently. Where the frick is this shit? Content. Live. That's why I love GOG. Yeah, I used to love GOG. And on principle, I still do. I just think they've lost a lot of the vision. But I think it's coming back. I do think the vision is coming back. This is very good news. I think I will probably start investing more. No, Mike. It's not about opening a separate tab. It's about whether my computer will brick from me having so many tabs and stuff open. It is aging. We have lost stream once before, mostly because I was trying to run a video on stream while doing all this stuff, but we have lost stream before from me opening up tabs. I have no problem navigating the YouTube studio. I've been doing this for 15 years now, I think. Yeah. Maybe not the streaming. Well, no. I did my first live stream back on livestream.com way back in, I think, 2011 spring. So yeah, at least like 15 years now. As this is not my first rodeo. My machine's just an old chassis. I don't know if she can handle half this stuff. Fizz says he rarely has more than 4 tabs open. Yeah, for the most part. I try to be that way. I'm not like a tab hoarder or anything, but sometimes on the show I have several things I want to talk about and maybe some backup stuff in case I can't talk about them for too long. There's just not that much to talk about. And I'll have anywhere between 5 to 10 tabs open, which is still not that bad if I'm not doing anything else, you know. But if I'm trying to run this stream on an older machine and then I try to run a video out of one of the tabs, that's over. No girl just can't take it. Yeah. They are still trying to preserve and restore some older games. Like recently, they got into preserving Dino Crisis, which I think is really cool that they got into that. That is something from their mission that they're not going to stop doing. If anything, they might be doing it at a faster pace with this redirectional change. So, yeah. I'm happy for this. This is a good thing. This is a good thing for PC gaming and just gaming in general. GOG is probably one of the best things for the preservation and archiving of video games. I don't know, other than maybe some ROM sites, even though the companies of those don't particularly like that they exist, ROM sites are probably the only other thing doing as much work for preserving games. See, Mike says he usually has 4 to 6 tabs open. I know people, which if I had a stronger machine, I wouldn't be against it. Except to a certain point, you can't even see the tabs that you have open. But I know people who will have anywhere between 25 to like 150 tabs open. It's just like a bunch of little squares at the top of their browser. And you kind of just have to remember more or less how recently you opened something so you know where in the mix it should be. And then you're like clicking on multiple stuff till you find it. It's like people who don't label their layers in Photoshop or Clip Studio or any engine like that. And they have to go through and figure out, oh my, what layer is this thing on? Which is why I urge people to always label your layers, unless you're only working with like 5. Anything more than 5, I think you should start labeling, even if you can still see them all right there in the side. I'll lose track of what layer I'm on if I have more than 5. I just start labeling them right away. It's just efficient to get in the habit of create a layer, label it. That's what it becomes when you have too many tabs. You can't even read it. I think if you hover over it, you can still read it. There's that. But you're like, still, it's the same thing as almost clicking on it. You're hovering over each one until you can see the title of the tab that you want to actually read. This one is kind of an opinion piece, sort of. It's not an op-ed by the writer. It's covering an interview, but it is about somebody's opinion. We've been hearing quite a bit from former Sony executive Sean Layden on his views of many things in the industry, and one of the latest things that he said is regarding the lack of exclusivity in video games. And I bring it up only because I agree with him. Typically, I don't care what other people say, but it's a nice jumping off point when I agree with them. And the kind of inciting line from his response was basically, if Mario starts appearing on PlayStation, that's the apocalypse. I've seen forever, like, ever since PlayStation was a thing, back when I was in school, people would always be like, why are all these other games on every single platform, but I can't play Mario, a Nintendo game, on my PlayStation? Why do I have to buy a Nintendo product to play Mario? Now, he's cutting this both ways, and I've always agreed both ways, too. He says the same goes for Nathan Drake and Uncharted. That needs to remain on PlayStation. Absolutely agree with it. The features of a console aren't quite what give its identity. The exclusives to a console are what shape its identity. And some people believe that there should be no exclusives to consoles. My opinion on that is the fact that there are less exclusives are why consoles are getting worse. And it's like one of those downstream effects where it's like every single person wants everything to be on every console, so they only have to buy their one. You believe it's the best thing for the consumer. Heck, when I was younger, I believed that too. That just everything being open is for the best. And having some of your first-party games on other consoles is good for your wallet. But you don't want all of them there. Like, in the case of Microsoft, obviously, owning Minecraft now, it would be really poor choice for them to allow or restrict Minecraft to just PC and Xbox products. Especially with how many people want to play them on, say, Apple tablets, or I guess technically Google tablets too, because anything Android is Google. Sort of. This is sort of. Most people play through the Google Store, though, so it's sort of enough. Or people play it on their Nintendo Switch. Those are some of the most popular platforms for people to play these games. And it would be really bad for them to not have them there. That being said, one of the ways that consoles get better, one of the ways that games get better, is part of that market competition caused by exclusivity. You need to make the best game possible to attract people to your system. If everything's available everywhere, not only do you not care enough about your system, and that will start to show over time, and I think it has shown over time with Xbox more than PlayStation, but even with the PlayStation and the features that it has, and its lack of first-party titles, though still not as bad as Xbox. Xbox right now is the pinnacle of everything I'm saying. But not only do you not care enough about your console and pushing it, you don't care enough about the games that you're making, because now you can kind of just like throw them out into the ether and hope they sell. You're not actually pushing. You're not trying to actually get people to want to buy your product. You expect it's like, well, it's Halo. People are going to buy it because the name Halo's on it. And that'll be true for so many editions of your game. But if it keeps getting worse and worse, people will stop buying it just because it has the word Halo on it. And actually, we're starting to see that with Halo, because people have been complaining pretty heavily by the last couple of Halo games. It's starting to lose the reputation the games once had. Sony is a little bit better about this. They've been very reluctant to put their games elsewhere, and if they have put them elsewhere, they've put a time limit for how long they can't be. I think this has actually been the smarter choice for them. And they've really only released the games on PC, a platform they do not see themselves as competing with, which is also probably a very smart idea. You'll start to see eventually God of War or Spider-Man or any of that, maybe 6 months to 2 years down the road from when it released, will be available on Steam. I don't think that they should ever go further than that for the big titles that should be cultivating the identity of their platform. If they do, since a lot of these games, I think, are already starting to suck anyway, I see the spiraling trend of these games getting worse and worse and worse over time, not better. And that's why every time somebody's like, Nintendo would be better if Mario was on other platforms or if Pokemon was playable on other platforms. I'm like, no, it wouldn't. It would actually only get worse. They could maybe pick a franchise, maybe one that's not their their make or break franchise. I don't know. Maybe because it's a first-person shooter, they could put Metroid Prime on PC or something like that. That might be fine. But the only thing that pushes Nintendo to keep making games as innovative and as solidly as they do is the fact that it's exclusive to their platform and is the thing that they use to sell their platform. If Nintendo wasn't a hardware company, I bet most of their games would probably flat out suck, because they would not have the incentive structure of trying to sell their hardware. And this is also the main reason why nobody's buying Xbox. What exclusive first-party titles does Microsoft have that if it was only on Xbox, I'm not even saying only on Microsoft, right? On Microsoft PC. Though I guess that could also technically be fine, because PC and consoles don't historically really see each other as competition. There's some people who like consoles because it's in their living room. It's easy to set up. It's basically plug and play. You could just do that with a media PC. I would recommend you make a media PC for your living room, but most people aren't going to do that. It's a little more work than it's worth it for them. But what games does Microsoft have recently that have built the identity of their system to make you want to buy it? Really none. because most of their games sell more on PC anyway. And now some of their stuff, they're thinking of putting Halo on PlayStation, which I don't think is good for Halo. I think that's great for PlayStation. I applauded it when they said they were going to do that, but then I thought about it longer. I applauded it because I did not think about it when I first heard it. My gut instinct was like, this is a cool thing, because I was thinking about it like I was a little kid again. But the longer I thought about it, I'm like, I don't think this is good for Halo. Halo's already in a really bad place right now. Like, potentially, it's tipping over to a franchise that's not worth anything. And I think it ends up getting worth less that way. Now, of course, you can't pull off Call of Duty and stuff like that. You have to keep that on every system. I think that's probably best for those games to stay on every system. They've always been on every system. That's a good franchise to now own that you keep everywhere. But you almost even want to treat that franchise that you own as competition to your main franchise, right? Like, this is the thing that you could sell that everybody keep everywhere, but you want to make sure that Halo is even better than that so that people want to buy an Xbox. They have not been doing that at all. That is not their mode of operation. And that's fine, because that's not really what Microsoft cares about, I guess. I've been talking about this for a long time, that Microsoft's plan for the long run has basically to merge the PC and console market and to basically not even care about the Xbox. The Xbox is like a liminal stepping stone towards their future plans of prioritizing mostly software. Their software is not doing good, though. So that plan's probably going to backfire on them unless they really step it up. I guess they're making more than enough money from King that they don't have to worry about it. Other things can be a loss leader. But I think the optimal plan, and this is from an outsider, so maybe their market research, I would probably trust Nintendo's market research more than any of these other ones because they're doing a lot better than these other ones. But their market research probably has more insight than me, probably has better plans. And there's a good reason why Nintendo doesn't put their stuff other places. But for the ones that already have too many products scattered elsewhere, I think the optimal plan would to be cultivate a strong, exclusive first-party front, and then also maybe have a few eggs that you're willing to put in multiple baskets. Especially if they're things that you can do in-house collaborations to try to get people to be interested into buying your console. I think that's how you should be doing it, and it's just not what they're doing. Let's see. Mike asks, hey, Metal, did you hear about the upcoming premiere of the latest Evangelion short coming in February, or the latest trailer for Part 4 of Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, coming in January? Yeah, I heard about them. I don't need a trailer for Blood War, because after I finish my painstakingly slow rewatch of Bleach, it is probably the only old show or vintage show that I am rewatching, and the only reason I'm even doing it is because we have Hulu, it's on in the living room, and I can have it on while I do chores. But eventually, when I finish that, I will be watching the 1,000-Year Blood War. I'm excited to watch it. I was upset that they didn't just continue adapting the series the first time, and that it took them forever to get there. So I don't need a trailer to sell me on that. It's on my will watch list no matter what. Evangelion, I'm just not interested in. I like Ano. I was talking about him very recently. I respect him as an artist. I don't really care for Evangelion almost at all. I've watched basically every single thing for Evangelion 2 to try to change my mind on it. Like, I've gone in wanting to like it because of how popular it is. I think it's overrated. I get very little enjoyment out of it. I think it's mid at best, just with really good animation, right? Like the animation carries Evangelion. So it's like, will I watch the short? Sure. Probably. Am I gonna like it? Probably not. That's what I expect. Do I want to like it? Yes, but we don't always get what we want in life. That's how I feel about the Mario movie. Like, I go into it, I want to like the movie. And then I come out feeling rather depressed at how just middle of the road it is. And I bet I'm probably going to feel the same way about the sequel. Maybe even worse, judging by the trailer. Because of all the weird stuff they're deciding to do with it. The other thing is, too, it's the overall writing. I know for a lot of other people, if they don't end up liking Evangelion, it's because they don't like Shinji. I don't even dislike him. I don't think he's a bad protagonist. Like, at all. I think he grows enough through it. Like, those complaints I've never gotten. I just think, like, the actual plot just isn't that good. I mean, the mech fights are good. And choreography is really good. And the animation's good. But the philosophy and the themes are surface level. Everybody tries to pretend it's like this deeply insightful philosophical series. Probably mostly out of cope. Everything's just like skin deep with it. It's kind of surreal. Like I said, from an animation perspective, I think it looks great. But that's about it. That's about how I feel. And I don't know if... Like, it's cool that they're commemorating their 30th anniversary. I think for what it did to animation, they should be commemorating their 30th anniversary. I don't know if there's anything they could do to make me actually like that series at this point. What do I think of their musical themes? Do you mean, what do I think of... like the theme music, like the openings and endings, or what do I think about the themes that are within their music? Because those are two different questions, and I want to make sure I'm getting the right one here. I think they're composed wonderfully, if that's the one you're asking for. They use a lot of good motifs throughout it that fit the tone of the part of the, like, episode that they appear in, and the recurring stuff is used really good to immediately let you know what the mood should be before the animation even catches up. If you're talking about like the openings and endings, though, Cruel Angel Thesis is kind of fine, I guess. I mean, it's not really like their openings and endings aren't really memorable to me. I just know what they are because everybody plays them all the time. You know, it's like they don't get to disappear long enough for me to forget them, you know? Like, it's an alright song. I have nothing against it. But I hear it way too often. Right? Like, if you're watching any streamer that listens to, like, anime openings and closings in their playlist, if you're watching any video that somebody's making that's like a essay about anime, Cruel Angel Thesis is probably going to show up. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's all right. I have nothing against it. Like, I don't think it's bad. I don't even think it's mediocre. It's probably above average. If I were to rate it as like a song, Cruel Angel's Thesis it's probably above average. I'm just tired of listening to it. And to be fair, I would probably be equally tired of listening to some of my favorite openings if I heard it as often as I hear Cruel Angel's Thesis. Right? there was a long time I was tired of hearing Ready, Steady, Go. By Liarkit Seal, the opening to the original Full Metal Alchemist. Just because I heard it way too often. Great song. I can listen to it again, but it's like, if people overplay something, you can definitely get tired of it. Especially, speaking of Ready, Steady, Go and Full Metal Alchemist, this is something that I really dislike about a lot of American airings, like localizations of stuff, where they don't do this so much anymore. But around that time they were. I mean, going all the way back, sometimes they would come up with new songs, right? Like Rock the Dragon for the American localization of Dragon Ball Z, which is not a song that existed in any other form before that. But a lot of songs, especially on the Toonami, if they had anything to do with helping fund the localization to get it there, would just have opening one for every single season, right? And a lot of times with like anime, they'll have maybe multiple cores, right? There'll be like a core 1, core 2, and if they do, that will have a different opening and closing per core. But then you're watching like the English localization, it's like, no, it's just the first one over and over again. And I think that might be because most American shows only ever have a single opening, and they thought that might be confusing to American audiences if you had the opening change multiple times throughout the series. But if you're somebody who was watching anime before many of the stuff, especially if you're somebody who was watching, say, fan subs back in the day where people literally needed multiple VCRs to encode the subs and you were getting them bootleg from places, you were already used to getting different openings during different parts of these shows. And it's like, man, I really, really wish. I think I remember one of the first ones that had all of the correct openings and endings to it was actually Bleach. That was one of the first ones I remember getting them. And they also have some of my favorite ones. Right? Because you're asking, what are some of my favorite openings and closings? I think my absolute favorite opening is probably Ready, Steady, Go. There was a time that I was tired of listening to it, but I think it is probably the best opening any anime's ever had. So far, I'm not saying it can't be topped. It's just, it set the bar really high. It is still probably the best part of that series and the edge that it has on Brotherhood, while Brotherhood's better in most other regards. Not animation, though. I actually think the animation's better in the original. Only slightly. They're pretty close to each other. Another one of my favorites, probably number 2, would be Zete number 2, which is the 4th opening of the old Ranma 1/2. I think it might. I think it's 4th. I want to say it's 4th. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it is. That one's a really good opening. I also really, really like. I think about Bleach has some of my favorite ones. The closing Happy People. Happy People is a really good closing theme. I think those are my top 3. I think I'll stop at my top 3. I think those ones are my top 3. Especially because, like, there's so many. You know, if I sat here, we could really just be here all day. And it would probably take me a while to remember them, too, because I can't remember necessarily the names of every single one of them. I'd have to actually be looking them up. It's like, I can remember how they go, but a lot of them are just, like, really Japanese names. And, like, I don't even remember what this means off the top of my head. Like, even, one of them is at Zete number 2. Literally